Welcome to Growing Tall Poppies, Thrive After Trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I am so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through trauma or significant challenges and not just survive, but to thrive after it. This is a space for people who've been through trauma or adversity, have done some healing, and know they're meant for more than just coping. This podcast is about post-traumatic growth, not getting back to who you used to be. Rather, understanding who you are now and learning how to stand tall without shrinking, forcing, or abandoning yourself. Here, we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it really takes to move forward in a way that feels aligned, embodied, and true. You will hear a blend of deep solo conversations and powerful guest interviews with people who have lived this work, not just studied it. Because growth doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently updating the old agreements that no longer fit the life you're ready to live. If you're ready to stop hiding, stop performing, and start owning who you are becoming, then you are in the right place. Let's grow tall together. Welcome back. I'm super excited today to bring you our next guest on the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome a beautiful lady who I've recently connected with, and her name is Michelle Doan. Michelle is the founder of Emani Vegan Cosmetics, a clean beauty brand powered by advanced Korean beauty technology and created for sensitive, hormonal and menopausal skin. Now, who doesn't want a beautiful skin? So she is born from Vietnamese immigrant roots and shaped by time spent in a Thai refugee camp before building a life in California. Michelle's journey has taught her resilience, gratitude, and the power of perspective. Learning to shift from have to get to changed her life and the way she views beauty from the inside out. So I'm so excited to have you here today. Welcome, Michelle.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on Growing Tall Poppies.
Oh, I can't wait to see where our conversation takes us, because you really are the epitome of a growing tall poppy. And I'm so excited for you to share your story and show us what is possible.
So, I grew up, I was born and raised in Vietnam, 1975, fall of Saigon. So a lot of Vietnamese were trying to leave the country. It was a very tumultuous time for our people. And my mom ended up leaving Vietnam on a little 30-meter boat. So imagine 30-meter, 90 feet, but there were over 300 passengers, 319 to be exact.
Oh my goodness.
And my mother was traveling with 6 children.
What?
Under the age of
6 children?
Yes. Under the age of 16, my oldest brother was 16. I'm number 4. My youngest sister was 2. So could you imagine? I see parents traveling with kids on the airplane. I just can't even imagine the strength that it took for her to escape, right? Leaving Vietnam, destination pretty much unknown, and with 6 children and literally with the clothes on our back.
Goodness, what an amazing woman. Like,
She is.
wow. I mean, really, 6 children doing that at such an emotional time. I mean, she would have been distraught internally having to do that, no doubt, but she did what she had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And Vietnam today is very different than Vietnam, during the takeover in the 70s and the 80s. Yeah, if you haven't got a chance to visit Vietnam, and I know for a lot of Australians, it's a shorter flight than from America. It,
Yes.
it takes us probably about 20 to 24 hours just to get to Vietnam. And I
Oh,
look
wow.
forward to my trip. Yeah, and it's so amazing. It's one of the fastest growing country, and I believe that 70% of the Vietnamese population is under the age of like 35. Those stats are very interesting because it's growing so fast and it's so developed now.
Yeah. It's not somewhere I've been, but it's definitely on my list. And I have a number of friends who have been there and loved it so much and they keep going back. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So 1979, we left Vietnam. We were on a boat, literally no food, sitting shoulder to shoulder. And, many Vietnamese made this voyage. And there are a lot of people that didn't make it because their boat sank and so many things. There were pirates that you had to deal with, and the conditions were quite abhorrent. And our family was lucky. Our family was lucky that we arrived to the destination quite safely, besides the lack of food and the lack of water. And I think we were on the voyage, we're on the boat for almost a week with very little food and water.
Oh, I can't even begin to imagine what that must have been like. So, how old were you at that time?
I was 9. And,
Mm,
during the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of Vietnamese leaving. And sometimes I end up in Malaysia and we end up in Thailand, Singapore, or some of the other areas that they would land in, and Indonesia. And during that time, there were so many refugees that the government didn't really want more refugees landing on their shores. So we were shot at because they did not want us to land our boat. So
goodness.
our boat captain had to, sail away, and then we wait until the middle of the night and we had to swim in.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I couldn't swim at the
oh,
time. I couldn't swim at the time, so imagine my mom had, 6 kids, only 3 can swim, and this is in the middle of the night. It's like in the
mm,
middle of nowhere. It's literally pitch black, and all you could do is like pray to God that you're swimming in the right direction, right? And so my mom feverishly was on the boat, was trying to find any single men that are traveling that can
mhm.
actually put us on their backs and bring us into shore safely. And thank God we made it to shore. And when we got to the camp, it's not like a very supported camp in a sense. So they just kind of put you in and you're kind of like on your own and you
Mm,
have to survive because there was really no food or provisions or even shelter that was provided.
mm. Wow. I mean, you've painted that picture very well. I think that's quite confronting, but you did what you had to do. It was your way
Yeah,
out, wasn't it? Your way to
yeah.
safety.
I
So,
did.
how long were you in Thailand then?
We were in camp probably 11 months, almost a year. I remember leaving in May
Hmm.
and we landed in Thailand, and we applied for asylum to many countries, but my mom wanted to really come to the US. And at the time, they denied us of the asylum because they didn't think that a single mom could support 6 children, right?
Mm,
But we were sponsored by St. Patrick's Catholic Church in Canada, in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. So we
hmm.
were really fortunate. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. And just to have the kindness of people and these organizations out there that help to support a family like ours.
Mm, wow. So, where did you go to school then? So, or how long after you got there before you were able to start at school and start living the life that you'd been looking forward to?
Well, imagine back in 1980, in the little town that we lived in, there wasn't even an ESL program, and none of us spoke English.
Oh my goodness.
And we didn't have a translator.
Mhm.
And so I could imagine how challenging it was, even for our sponsors, trying to communicate with us. And they didn't have an ESL program, and I just remember that my brothers and I, we were shuttled to a another school where they had an ESL teacher that taught us
Okay.
how to speak English. But
Hmm.
we were just so happy, we were just so happy to land in Canada. I think one shocking thing was the weather. We went from,
Oh,
really hot, humid tropical weather to really like 4 seasons, extremely cold. And I remember our first winter I've never seen so much snow. That we had to almost literally dug ourselves out. And I remember the snow was almost as tall as, myself was. And it was the most interesting thing. And I've never felt so cold in my entire life.
oh, yeah, it's a huge contrast, isn't it? I've just come back from Canada and it was very cold and it was almost summer and it was still freezing. So that would have been a huge shock to your system coming from
Yeah,
beautiful, warm, tropical Vietnam.
yeah. Sometimes, to be honest, it's really hot and it's really humid. Like, I would not go back to Vietnam in the summer because now that I've acclimated to the California
Mm,
weather, I realize that, being in the cold and the heat is not very much. But landing in Canada, one thing that I wanted to do is to speak Vietnamese, to speak English really well
hmm.
because, we only spoke Vietnamese. And, Vietnamese is a very difficult language. It's
Yeah.
monosyllabic. We don't conjugate verbs and things like that. So for us, learning English and have to conjugate verbs or pluralize things, it was quite a fun challenge. And yeah, I was named Michelle by my teacher because she couldn't really say my Vietnamese name. And I was getting teased quite a bit in school for it. So yeah, that's how I became Michelle. It was from my teacher.
Mm.
I'm so grateful for her.
Oh, it sounds like she had a huge impact on you at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it really taught me at a young age to really be kind because what she did even through those ESL classes really taught me to be kind to others and to help that people that are less fortunate. And you have to think beyond yourself. And you just don't know the action that you do every day could have such a great impact, onto someone else's life that's so young and impressionable. Yeah, and so although we didn't speak English, we went to church every Sunday. So although we were Buddhists, we were Catholic for a few years.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it gave you such a great experience for different cultures, different religions, and with that lens of kindness.
Yeah. And that, like I said, yeah, we're really grateful for that. And I only lived in Canada for 5 years from 1980 to 1985 because
Hmm.
in 1983, my mom really wanted to come to California. My parents were not together, and my dad finally made it to Canada and she left and she came to California. And I had an opportunity. She's like, hey, why don't you come and visit? And I come to California, and my little 15-year-old brain was like literally blown because it's so beautiful. And I live in Southern California in probably the best place where you have blue skies and palm trees and sunshine. It was super incredible. And although my job and creating Imani allowed me to travel everywhere, and people say, well, where would you live? And I was like, Southern California, because I guess my other country, I love Australia as well. I've been to Australia. My cousin lives in Australia, in Melbourne and in Perth. But I would say I equally love Italy. I
Oh,
love
okay.
things with a lot of history.
Three very different countries.
Very, very different country. But I think that's what's so wonderful about the world is that, be able to create Imani and be able to do all these wonderful shows all around the world, and I started the Imani is because for the longest time was cursed with cystic acne. So starting at 15, had cystic acne, spent a lot of time at the dermatologist, and
Okay.
a lot of people would really connect with this, is that when you have acne, it really affects your self-esteem because you just really feel kind of like an ugly duckling. You don't feel good about yourself. You feel like there's something wrong with you. And then spending time at the dermatologist was also difficult because, they
Mm,
put you on birth control and then I was on Accutane and I
mm,
was on topicals and not only that, like your skin started to be really super reactive. And Accutane had a lot of side effects. I was having
mm,
a lot of side effects, and that's that's one of the reason and the biggest pain point why I started Emani.
Yeah, and I can still see that. You know, I'm lucky enough to be able to see you while we're talking, and I know most people will be doing it on audio and listening, but I could see that in your face that it's still a really painful point. And I know, like, both my children have had issues, one still does, with cystic acne, and they've been down that. My son went down the Roaccutane path and the side
Yeah.
effects that they warned us about. But the impact of the skin improving outweighed the negative side effects for him. And my poor daughter is still struggling with that. And it's heartbreaking, the impact
Yeah.
it has. Self-esteem, and particularly society is so focused these days on how you look, and social media is all about this pretending of being perfect. It's really destructive, isn't it, in many ways?
Yeah, that's another thing is that, we choose to really feature real women in our social media. They're not polished, they're not. So when you look at our feed and we work with all these, I wouldn't call them influencers, but they're real people, user
Mm,
generated content are people that we work with. We don't pay them. We do not pay them because there's a lot of paid social
mm.
influences and videos and things like that. We prefer to really work with women, especially women with sensitive hormonal skin. I started the company when I was 28. I started in 98 and I've had it for 28 years. 28 years. It's going to be 28 years in September.
Gosh,
And
congratulations. 28 years in a company, like not many people can say that. Long time. Most people don't get past 5 years. So huge congratulations to you.
oh, thank you so much. I think it comes down to doing what you love. Of all the years that I've been doing it, I think the first 10 years I had a lot of energy, I had a lot of passion, but I also had a lot of frustration. And you have this big vision in your head and business growth is not linear. I almost feel
No.
like it's an elevator. It goes up and it goes down and you have your challenges and sometimes your elevator breaks. And you got to figure out like how you're going to get to where you need to be.
Oh, I
And
like that.
so that's why the resilience came in. The resilience, thank God, the 1 year in refugee camp really taught me resilience. Moving to Canada, not speaking English and being teased and just new culture taught me resilience. Coming to California was the same thing. And, just going through, cystic acne and personal growth and not feeling great about yourself taught me to be resilient.
Mm.
Also, surviving two really, really nasty divorces taught me to be resilient.
You've had the whole works by the sound of it. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to, so you had the cystic acne, and what made the decision for you that you wanted to do more than keep going to dermatology offices and keep trying Accutane and things like that? How did you get from there to Emani?
So I was really frustrated and I felt really helpless, right? So from 15 to about 27, 28, I just kind of dealt with it. But one day I went into a salon and I was, picking up some products, had my hair done. It was in Huntington Beach. And there's a lady behind the counter and she's like, I'm new here and I'm doing facials. And she saw my skin and she said, I can help you. And I said, no way. I'm like, you can't help me. I'm like, I'm going to dermatologists and they can't help me. And she said, well, if you do what I say, I'm going to give you really good skin. And that was a really tall order. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And I went to her to get a facial. Now, anyone who's listening to this and have cystic acne or sensitive skin, cystic acne facial is not like a spa experience. It's a
Mm.
very painful experience because she took a lancet and she would literally break the skin and then she would have to extract because it was so deep and there's a
Hmm.
lot of not inflammation, but there's a lot of pus under my skin, right?
Yeah.
And it was so painful that I was sometimes crying and my body kind of like break out in a cold sweat and I have to
Mm.
tap out. And I'm like, look, I need 5 minutes because like my system was going
Mm.
crazy. And yeah, so I would go through that. And afterwards, I would put Neosporin on my face because some of it, sometimes I get infection, right?
Yeah.
But for about 2, 3 weeks, like my skin looks amazing, right?
Okay.
After the healing, my skin looks amazing. However, it started breaking out again. And so this is a cycle that was repeating 3 to 4 months. And I came into her and I'm like, okay, you're showing me that you have a system and it works, but why am I still breaking out? And she said to me, you don't know what you put on your face when you leave here. And I'm like, you know what? That's an excellent question. I said, can you tell me what I can put on my face? And I have to tell you, when I asked this question, I was expecting a no, because no one could help me and could tell me. Even the stuff that has hypoallergenic broke me out. And so I brought in everything that I was putting on my face and my body. I don't know if you ever count how many products you use a day, but like on average, it's like 15 products and like over 5 pounds of products per year that we put from head to toe, right? Just think
Mm.
about,
Yeah.
body lotion and all the cleansers and everything that you use. And so I brought in all the products and she pulled out this binder. This is 98, right? She pulled out this binder and she had this copy. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she said, oh, yeah, this is the Comedone list. I'm like, what? I've never heard of it. And she's
Mm.
like, yeah, ingredients that's going to cause your skin to break out. I'm like, there is a list. I'm like, are you kidding
Like,
me?
oh, wow.
And I was so shocked. Like once again, my mind was blown. I'm like, you have a list? I'm like, where did you get this list? And she's like, I got this from a dermatologist I worked with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can I photocopy it? So she said, okay, photocopy this. Now go buy products. But she said, the list is ranked from 0 to 5. 0 being non-comedogenic, 5 being very comedone, right? And
Hmm.
anything in a 3 could break you out if it's in higher concentration. So this
Okay.
list was long. There was like 100 of different ingredients on there. So this is the late 90s where clean beauty wasn't out there. There was not a lot
Mhm.
of education. And, we don't have little handheld computers like we do now in the
Yeah.
palm of our hands. And and so going shopping was a challenge. Where do you go shopping when you think you're going to buy great products? The department stores. So I go to the department
Read every
stores. I said
ingredient
to,
on every product. I can see it now. That was an effort and a half.
could you imagine like
Oh,
asking the sales girl behind the counter? I said, can I see the box? And I'm like, what do you need to see the box for? I said, I need to see the ingredients. I'm like, why? We're so and so brand and I said, because I have really sensitive skin. Having that conversation in 1997, 98 was like so
mm,
different. It was not a
yeah.
consumer driven experience, right?
Mhm.
And I went to a couple of counters and I just had the same experience. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to go somewhere that I don't have to deal with people, like with salespeople. So I went to drugstores. I went to a drugstore and I went into the beauty aisle and I was literally there for hours, like so much so that I think either the manager or theft prevention was walking behind me. And I should have a little sheet in front of me. I was grabbing every product, I was reading every single ingredient. And then I started calling companies. I'm like, it says hypoallergenic. Why am I still breaking out? I don't know. Let me pass you to someone. And this is where I learned to be super curious and just asking questions until I figure it out. And I think the power of asking, it's really is powerful to
Yeah.
figuring out what it is in your life, either whether asking yourself the right question, asking your people, asking for help, asking for things you need. Yeah, so that's how Emani got started.
Wow. And then you started it yourself?
Yeah. So after literally hundreds of phone calls, I don't know how I end up talking to a chemist from a Merck, which is they have a cosmetic division. And yeah, and we had a lot of conversations. And he's like, hey, I can send you some pigments. And I'm like, I'm not a formulator. And he said, oh, I can place you in touch with a formulator in Southern California. And I'm like,
Amazing.
okay. And this is where I learned the power of saying yes sometimes. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, yes, send it to me. Yes. Give me the contact. Yes, I will contact them. And so that's how it kind of began. And the process of formulation is still a very long process, shorter now, but in 97, 98 was really long.
Mm.
And yeah, and I was in fashion and merchandising. So I had a product which is foundations and some powder eyeshadows. So it doesn't need emulsion. It doesn't have any junk ingredients in it. It's 100% mineral. I don't know if you remember the mineral makeup.
Mm.
Yeah, it was huge is because it was made from people like myself.
Ah.
Yeah. And then I put it in a little display and I'm like, okay, I don't have an MBA. I'm like, I have a beauty product. Who should I sell to? And I pull out the yellow pages. I don't know if they have that in Australia back
Yep,
then.
we got the
Yellow
yellow
pages is like
pages.
it's literally a phone book directory. I think anyone was probably born, turn of the century, the 21st century, probably don't know what the yellow pages is. Yeah, so I pulled it out and then I start calling people and it's very difficult on the phone. So I got in my car and I did cold calling.
Oh my
And I didn't even know I
goodness.
was cold calling. Yeah, I didn't know I was cold calling. I just brought my display. I was like, hi, my name is Michelle. This is what I do. And they're like, okay. So the first day I called on 6 stores, I opened 5 stores and I sold a $300 package. And I'm like, you know what? I probably could do this for a living. And that's how Emani got started.
Oh my goodness. What an amazing story. And really the things that you said, resilience, that stands out for me. But that sheer determination, which you've
Mhm.
shown all your
Yeah,
life. You learnt that from your mum, obviously, for her ability to do
yeah,
that and be determined to do it no matter what the cost was to keep you guys safe. And you've done the same that no, I want better. I want better for me. I want better for, I don't want people to have this. And I really loved when you said about being super curious. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so you can see how that's unfolded at every part of the journey that you've shared with us. So, can you think of any other specific qualities or attributes that you think would be helpful for our listeners in moving from trauma or adversity through to post-traumatic growth?
Yeah. So, it took me a long time and only recently that I learned how to receive.
Mm.
And if you were talking to my friends and my family and, people that I work with, they would say that I'm generous, right? I'm very
Mhm.
helpful and things like that. And I think most women are taught that to be giving, but I
Yeah.
don't think we were really taught how to receive.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier is that, we want something better for ourselves. And yes, I started Imani because I was selfish. I need to solve a problem that I have, right? But I didn't know the whole concept of receiving and this whole concept of being open to receive. It took me a while to realize and start questioning. I said, you know what? I think I do a lot for others. And I feel like I give a lot in a relationship. And then, surviving two really nasty divorces. And I was traumatized. But the one thing that I made a promise to myself was that I was not going to treat others and I'm not going to carry that trauma with me. And just because I was hurt in the deepest way, I was not going to inflict it. So I made a very conscious decision of to stay kind. But I carried those scars, Nat, for a really long time. And
Mm.
I didn't know how to let go. And so only recently that this whole concept of letting go and feel safe to receive was really big.
So, is there anything specifically that helped you to do that, to let go and to be able to receive? Like, yes, in our heads, we can go, oh, yeah, I need to learn how to do that, but that's really easy. Today, it's a lot harder to do. So, what helped you to be able to do that?
So it took me literally 28 years because I remember I was 28, 29, going through my first divorce, building a company, right? And it was really, really tough. It's some of the darkest time of my life where I was almost like homeless. I was going to move back to Canada. I was dealing with a very hostile person. And I knew there was something on the other side, but I didn't know anything about self-development. And
Mm.
you said in your head, and you literally hit it on the head because my head, my mind, I call it my Zen garden because it took me almost 2 decades of like just reading and doing all of these things, but only I think in the last 5 years that I really understood what it meant. And the voice in my head, the voice in your head is actually not your friend. And it's so weird when you really think about it. That voice in your head is not your friend because if you it starts for me with awareness, knowing that I have a voice in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's always criticizing. And she always telling me what I could do better, that I'm clumsy, that I couldn't do it. And she's still there sometimes, but she talks a lot less than she used to.
Good.
And I
Good.
refer to the voice in my head as a third person. And yeah, like first is having the awareness, second is understanding that. So my mind, I call it the Zen garden because when we don't examine our thoughts, it's like weeds in a garden and you leave it for too long. You you're gonna have a very messy, wild, and overgrown garden. And
Oh.
you're gonna figure out you're gonna feel heavy and you're gonna feel worry. And I was living in a state of fight or flight. I worry about things that I had no control over. And once I understood that, and I understood how my mind worked,
Mm.
and because I read some really great books. The first book that really opened the door for me was Michael Singer, Untethered Soul. That was the first book,
It's a great book.
right?
I love that. Yes, I have that book as
Yeah, the first time I read the book, I'm like, wow, this is a really great concept, right? But I didn't really apply it. How many times have we read a book that it was really awesome, and then we're like, yeah, but we don't do anything with that information.
Yep, I can relate to that.
And what I realize is that you have to either figure out what kind of learner you are. Okay. Some people learn by reading, some people learn by audio,
Yeah.
auditory learning. I'm more auditory and visual learner. And so, and what I realized is that when I put on my headphones and I listen to him talk, or when it's the book is being narrated, and I don't really listen to as much music, but I listen to when I'm driving,
Mm.
then I'm like, wow, my mind start clicking, and I'm like, holy cow, let me listen to that chapter again.
Mm.
And I just put on repeat, and then he was talking about the roommate in your head. And then once I identify the roommate in my head, and I'm like, oh, I got you. Now, when you start talking, I just sit and just watch you pass by. I'm like, those are just thoughts, and
Mm.
thoughts can be changed.
Exactly.
So
Skill.
that was the first book. It takes a
Mm.
lot of skills, it takes a lot of intentionality and awareness. The second book was The Art of Living, which is by
Yes.
Pitnyapan Master.
Yeah.
I also listened to that book probably 12 times. Then I found a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think, Joseph Wynn. And that's another book that took me, it's like I'm diving into this and it's a daily practice, Nat, because like anything else, if you don't practice it daily, how you wake up would determine how your day, how your week, how your year, how your life. And it's not easy. It's like going to the gym, but I call it the mind gym.
Mm. Very powerful. Very powerful tips. And I think that's one of the key things, that persistence, and that don't expect that you try something once, that's enough. It's something that needs to become part of our routine, our ritual, and we practice things
Yeah.
every day. Don't get better at something if you don't practice.
Yeah,
Mm.
like you don't get fit by going to the gym once a week.
No, sadly. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So that's what I think about, like people talk about, like when you want something, right? You want to be skinny. It's not one meal, it's multiple meals and multiple decisions. If like going to the gym, it's hard. I struggle with that and I'm not a really good gym person, but I make it up in house cleaning. And I'm like, I hope I'm burning a lot of calories.
Mm-hmm.
I clean my own house. I do a lot of all of that. And it feels good to really move around and just to really stay active and take walks and things like that. But in the morning, my routine includes like waking up and I do lymphatic massage. If you don't know, if you haven't done lymphatic for your head and neck, I go to YouTube. I call it YouTube University, and I learn lots of stuff on YouTube on lymphatic massage and how my system works. And I discover a lady, Louise Hay. I love Louise Hay. Changed my life,
Yeah.
rewired my brain. Listening to that lady every day
Mm.
for a month literally rewire my brain, and I've never been happier. And what I say is I'm living life in HD. And
Mm.
she taught me how to be grateful, like gratitude.
I love that so much. Yeah, Louise Hay is amazing, isn't she? Really?
She's so amazing. I also have a girlfriend. Her name is Lee Sung Win. She's Australian. She's Australian, but she's Vietnamese. She lives in California here too. And a few years ago, she's like, "Oh, I have this morning routine. It's called 10-10-10. It's like journaling, 10 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of gratitude, and 10 minutes of I wasn't paying attention." I'm like, okay, I tried journaling and I tried gratitude. And I'm like, this is kind of dumb. I was like, doing gratitude practice. I'm like, okay, name three things that you're grateful for. And I said, okay, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my work, right? And then the next day, I'm like, I'm grateful for my work. I'm grateful for my health. It's the same
Same
thing.
three
And
things?
I'm going, yeah. I'm like, I'm so unimaginative. And I'm like, all right, let's go to YouTube and let's look for gratitude. And I found this 21-day gratitude practice. And it's an audio, and I listen to it in the morning when I'm putting my headphones, I'm making coffee, I'm doing my stretches, and it says, "Oh, thank you for my bed." I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, I love my bed. Thank you for my coffee." And I'm like, "Thank you for hot showers," and all these
Mm.
things. I'm like, wow. And so making the mundane things that we take for granted every day becomes, I'm like, wow, now every time I take a hot shower, I'm just like, oh.
Ah, and really embracing that gratitude in every action you take during the day. I love that. Really embodying it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how you start your day, my best thing is how you start a day can change your day, can change your week, and can change your life, you know. And I had to learn that, I worried a lot. I don't know if anyone who's listening to this could really relate and connect. I have three kids. When I worry if they get jobs, I worry when they got married. I'm a grandma. I'm like, oh my gosh, I worry if you can support your own children.
Mm.
And I realized that as a grandma, my job is actually just to enjoy the grandbabies. And I changed my perspective. And that's all I did is like, my job is to love them and my job is to spoil them. And that's what I do.
Oh, I bet they'd love going to see grandma. I bet that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I would say that you can never give your grandkids or your children too much love and too much affection. But of course, when I say love, it doesn't mean that there are no rules. They know what our family values are, and
Yeah.
that's kindness, respect, transparency, like honesty. I think and then always do your best. Like those things, I always talk to my children, are you living those values in your life? And I think that's important to have.
Yes, very much so. I'm a firm believer in values and boundaries, healthy boundaries. Yeah,
Yes.
because when we don't set those boundaries, then we open it up for all sorts of things to happen to us, for us, all sorts
Yeah.
of things. We need to
Yeah.
have the boundaries, but also be okay about sticking to the boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really hard because when I heard the path of least resistance, I had a lot of conflict.
I bet.
It would be so easier if you did this, and then, you learn discipline, right? You learn discipline and you're like, oh, it's so easy to do this. And it's like so hard to do this. And then the dichotomy of it is that sometimes we choose the hard path. Sometimes we overcomplicate things when we should make
Yes.
it simple. And sometimes when we need that discipline and choose the hard path because it makes us better people, we don't. And so, like, for me, that was a really big eye opener.
Mm. And I see that a lot with the people that I work with and, myself and the way that I've taken the path sometimes all over the place. But I
Yeah.
do think that sometimes we can overcomplicate it deliberately because we think it's when something is easy, we almost want to make it harder because we think it can't be this easy, it can't be this simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because sometimes we don't feel that it's deserving. And if it's too good, it's too easy. There's this voice. If it's too good, there must be something wrong with it. If it's too,
Yeah.
then it's not
Hmm.
worth it. Right. So I think
Yeah.
that was really interesting. And then, raising my kids was interesting and because I was a single mom and I felt like I was there for them physically, but mentally I wasn't there. I don't know if any young moms or any moms that raise kids can relate to that because I'm like, wow, man, when, my second boy, I said, wow, when he's 18, I'll be 44 and I can really live my life. I'm like, I'm still young enough because I had my kids when I was really young. I was 23 when I had the first one, and he is 33. So this year I just turned 56 in January. And now reflecting back, I think if the one thing that I would do is I would probably spend more time talking to them and not lecture them too much.
Mm. Yeah. And,
But
I'll look back and think, oh, probably would have done that differently. But that's the good
yeah,
of
but
experience, isn't it?
yeah, but then I'm like, you know what? It's not too late because now they're here and you still have conversation with them. So,
Mm.
if I'm doing a project and they walk in a room I'm in and they have asked me a question, before I would just talk and then multitask, right? But
Mm.
now I actually take a moment to stop and then I would get up and I would, would have a conversation, even if it's a 3 minute or 5 minute conversation, but you're actually building something. And for me, I'm like, wow, I have this opportunity because my other belief is that it's never too late or never too old, right? And you can take action now. It's like do something that makes your heart happy every day.
Yeah, I love that. And you honestly seem to be embodying that and living your values. I can hear that
Yeah.
in the way we're having this conversation. I just say, oh my God, what a beautiful soul you have. And despite having gone
Yeah.
through all these things, that's made you stronger, more resilient. And you just, it seems that you give so much to others, to the world, but you're also now able to give to yourself what you need.
Yes. And being able to give to yourself, and it was funny because, when I was younger, I was going through cystic acne. And then when I had kids, it was the most challenging time of my life because running a company, living in fight or flight also causes me like a lot of like systemic issues. Like
Yeah.
I'm living with chronic inflammation because, digestive issues, all these things. So
Yeah.
now I'm actually correcting, right? And taking really good care of myself, doing enzyme probiotics on skin and on face. And then when I hit 50 and then going into menopause, that was another challenge.
Yes,
Things starting to
absolutely.
hang. Yeah. And so that's why, I get super nerdy when it comes to ingredients, performance, and delivery.
Mm.
And so, and I want to share with this because I call it our 3P in skincare. And
Okay.
so whether you are looking at Emani or you're looking at like a skincare product for yourself, three things that you want to look into. The first P is potency, is how much percentage of the active ingredients that they're saying is in that formulation.
Mm.
Because too little is not going to do anything, and too much can cause skin irritation. What a lot
Okay.
of people don't know is that a lot of moisturizers, a lot of toners are like up to 90% water, right? So all the
Mm.
actives
Okay.
are very, very little. So just kind of like be careful and see what you're looking at or paying for. And so for us, we kind of want to flip the script. So when I was going through menopause, I launched something called Sleep and Renew. And Sleep and Renew, I really want my skin, like our body repair when we're resting, right?
Mm.
And so Sleep and Renew is like 0% water. And then we put in 85% probiotics, almost 86%
Okay.
probiotics with apple and papaya, right? So it helps to turn your cells and things like that. So I think about like some of the issues that we're dealing as women and some of the products out there. And then I'm like, okay, we have to like offer something different. So second P is actually penetration.
Mhm.
How is that skincare that you want to buy is going to deliver all the nutrients to your skin? right? And this is where the Korean fermentation is a very old fermentation process. But the science way is that we work with a company that has 13 patents, and the patents are very much of ingredients processing. They can take like a normal ingredients, like let's just say 200 parts per million, right? And then they can boil it down, they can break it down to 2,000 parts per million. So
Okay.
what that means is it's absolute bioavailable, it absorbed really fast. And the third P is just proven, it have like clinical studies, has it been
Okay.
tested? Uh, accompanied by like real testimonials, not fake testimonials.
Yeah, which we see all over the place with the influencers just doing more and more. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so like the three Ps are really great, and you don't need a whole bunch of products. You probably just need a good cleanser, a good serum, and a high performance moisturizer. And if you're going through menopause, hey, I get it. Like it's hot, your skin is dry, it's oily, it's like this and it's like that, and then all the weight comes on.
Yep, yep. Know that one well.
Yeah.
Oh, what amazing tips. So, Michelle, as we move to wrapping up this conversation, where can our listeners find out more about you and find you online? Because I think there's many of us that are going to go, oh my gosh, we need this Emani stuff.
Well, Emani.com is our main website. Yeah, so you can get information on Emani.com. We also have a distributor in Australia as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think EmaniAustralia.au. If you're in Australia, just hit Emani Cosmetics. I'm pretty sure the website's gonna pop up. But yeah, definitely you can read about the story. For a long time, I didn't really embrace my refugee because being an immigrant, I felt like I wasn't good enough and
Mm.
I didn't really embrace, but now I'm really embracing the cultural identity and be proud of what I've accomplished.
Oh, that makes me very happy, makes my heart sing to hear you say that because really hearing your story, I've been very moved, and I know our listeners will be like, oh my goodness, just that raw, honest, just recounting was the word I was looking for, recounting your story and really painting that
Yeah.
picture and showing what's possible. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing so beautifully today. And
Thank you for having me because I feel like everyone has a story.
mm,
Everyone has a story and it's a story that you tell yourself. It's either going to empower you or disempower you. And I hope that you find your voice and find power into your story and to live your best life.
and to be tall poppy. And I know that a lot of people, a lot of other countries don't refer to it as a tall poppy, but really a tall poppy is someone who brings so much to the world and is willing to shine their light brightly and be who they really are without allowing others to cut them down. We see that very regularly, sadly, over here in Australia. But you have proven
Yeah.
to be a beautiful tall poppy and look what you're doing in the world and changing lives. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Now, I have one question that I always finish with. What do you think your younger self would think of what you're doing now and what you've achieved?
Yeah. My younger self's like, well, you know what? You're actually a badass.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. You're like, because I always felt insecure. And if my 12-year-old self is like, yeah, you're all right. You did all right. You're kind of a badass.
You are, and you've overcome so much, and now it's your time to shine and thrive. I love that so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'll put everything in the show notes for where everyone can get in contact with you. And yeah, I look forward to getting some Emani products myself. And I know my daughter will be, Where do I get it, Mum? Where do I get it?" Oh,
Well, thank you so much.
no worries. Thank you. Bye for now. Thank you for spending this time with me on Growing Tall Poppies. My hope is that today's episode has offered you something more than insight, that it's helped you feel a little more connected to who you are now, a little more trusting of your body, and a little more permission to stand tall without shrinking or forcing yourself forward. Post-traumatic growth isn't about fixing yourself or returning to who you once were. It's about understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently choosing what no longer needs to come with you. New episodes of Growing Tall Poppies are released weekly, every Tuesday, and I'd love for you to continue walking this path with us as we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it truly means to grow forward, grounded, aligned, and embodied. If this episode resonated, I invite you to subscribe, follow, share it with someone that you feel might need it, or simply take a quiet moment to reflect on what's ready to move forward for you. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Nat Green, on Facebook at Dr. Natalie Green, or over on YouTube at Dr. Nat Green. And remember, you don't need to rush, and you don't need to hide anymore. Stay connected, stay true, and keep standing tall like the tall poppy you are. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.